people of the tube, this is Justin Hatt coming from Lansing, Michigan, the most culturally dead place in the entire state, and for that fact, probably the entire country. If you're from Lansing, Michigan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Today I want to be talking about triads. I think triads are one of the most important things to understand and conceptualize when you're thinking about the guitar and the fretboard. This is really applicable when you're playing in an ensemble, even your solo playing, and as far as like trying to come up with better improvised lines and just creating a better statement. And triads are really, really important. If you don't know what triads are based on a root, third, and fifth. Sometimes if we're playing an extended chord, it might be a root, third, and then seventh, ninth, etc., depending on what type of extension we're trying to build. So I want to zoom in on the fretboard, and I want to talk to you about 3 specific triadic shapes that you all need to know. Let's zoom in and break down. Alright, so I know I'm going to get asked about this because I always do every single video no matter how many times I explain it. So anyway, amp settings. I have everything at 12 o'clock, a little bit of reverb. I'm running through a Nux acoustic nylon string formatted guitar amp, and I'm running through a Godin multi-act nylon. I love these guitars. I did a review on this guitar a while ago. Check that out if you haven't seen it. Anyway, so I'm going to be doing this all in the key of C. The little intro that I played was in the key of C, so I'm going to stick with that. Let's just talk about these basic shapes. Now, I think they're often overlooked because everyone thinks you have to grab these big, chunky chords, right? But that's been proven time and time again that you don't. You can create very, very nice statements with really, really nice, just like beautiful chords. Okay, so let's break this down. The first shape that I want to show you is kind of based off of the A-rooted bar chord shape. So if we're thinking about this shape like this, right? So like our A major position, this is movable. You can move it to any single position and it's a brand new chord. So this shape is kind of based off this. So let's find our root on, essentially we're going to be finding it on the G string. So if we find our C note on the G string, that would be on the 5th fret. We're going to build this shape. It's all going to be on the top 3 strings, so our G, B, and E. So I'm going to have 5 on the G, 5 on the B, and 3 on the high E. So that's my C chord shape. It's based off of this chord shape. So if I can think about going back to the master shape, again based off this A-rooted position, and I'm just playing the top sets of those strings. So there we go right there, there's C major in this position. Now this is movable, so no matter what key you want to put it in, let's say we want to play in B flat. Bam, there it is, B flat right there, based off that shape. So remember, you're just basing it really off the root. So here's, I have two roots essentially in this chord. I have the low octave here and the high octave here. So I'm basing it off that. I usually, sometimes depending on what piece I'm playing and what I'm trying to do with it, I will play with fingers 1, 2, and 3. Sometimes I'll play it like this with fingers 1, 3, and 4. In fact, if you're familiar with the tune 8 Days a Week by the Beatles, they use this chord shape. And they're just walking up. The whole song is D, E, to G. Here we go, D, E, and G. So they're just, thinking about how you can implement these chords into your regular playing and facilitate them in a musical way. So again, here's shape number 1. I'm thinking on the G and B string, 5, and then on the high E string, 3. And again, that's movable. You can move it to any single position, and we're going to be finding the root based on the G string. Alright, shape number 1. Now, let's talk about a really, really familiar shape that kind of comes from these E major rooted bar chords. So we're really thinking about playing the most top of it. So what we want to do is we want to find our C major chord based on the E chord looking shape, and that's going to be on the 8th fret. So I'm going to have a full bar at the 8th fret. I'm going to go 8, and then 10, 10, and then 9, and then 8, 8 again. And really what I'm doing is I'm just grabbing the top part of this chord. So it's based off that chord, and I'm just grabbing the most top part of it. So really just the top 3 strings again, it's going to be 9, 8, 8. So there's C. So we have C here, and we have C here. So see how that is? They're in different inversions. This one right here is in root position with the C in the bass. This one right here is in what we would call first inversion with the major third in the bass. remember, triads are always going to be based off a root, third, and a fifth. And again, depending on sometimes if you're building extension chords, it may be like a root, third, and then seventh or ninth or whatever extension you're trying to build. But in this case, we're only thinking standard triadic chords. So just a 1, 3rd, and 5. So again, root position down here, first inversion. Now, we're going to go to a second inversion triad for C major. And it's really based off the D chord shape. So if you didn't know, the D chord shape is a movable triadic shape. So for example, here's D, here's E flat, here's E, here's F, F sharp, G. Let's move this all the way up until we find C. So we have G, G sharp, A, B flat, B, oh here we go, C. Bam, right there. So it's gonna be on the 12th and 13th fret. So my first finger is on the 12 of the G, second finger is on 12 of the high E, and third finger is on 13 of the B. That's a C major triad, just based on this D major chord shape. And again, you're only playing the top 3 strings. So far, we have learned this shape, this shape, and this shape. See how that walks up the scale? Do, mi, so, mi, do, because they're all basically in different inversions. So first inversion with the root and the bass, second inversion with the third and the bass, and now, second inversion now with the fifth and the bass. So inversion in music, if you didn't know, it's just restacking the notes in a different order, but it's the same notes. So if, for example, in a C major triad, we have the notes C, E, G, which would be the root, third, and fifth. We can reorganize those notes in any single way, and it's still going to be a C major chord. It's just in an inversion now, where the lower note is not the C note anymore. It could be the G or the E. So whenever you see an inversion, it doesn't mean that the chord is changing. It just means that the notes are being stacked in a different way. Now, I want to show you how you can start to implement these in your playing. So let's say we're going to take a really, really basic progression like C to G. You know, whatever. A 1 to a 5. C, and this happens in music all the time, Johnny Cash. You know, so I want you to try to apply this in a musical context, because it doesn't matter if you know these things unless you can apply them musically. So let's say you're playing in a band, this guy's down here jamming on C to G. So they're playing in C, you're like, well, I don't want to play the same thing, so what do, right? Well, now you have these triadic ideas, so let's try to complement that. Instead of playing down here, let's say we're going to grab this version of C here, and now I have to figure out where I can find a G chord based on this position. Well, look right here. Here's a G major chord in the D shape position, so here I go. And that on itself sounds really cool. You can pick them out. Say we want to try it in a different position. Alright, well, let's find a C. Okay, here's my C. Oh, here's a G right here, based on that. Here we go. So you know that person down here? Well, here I am. And it adds a different characteristic. Pick them out if you want. Let's do this one more time with our last 2 shapes that we're thinking. Okay, well, here's C up here. Now I have to find a G up in this position. Well, here's my G bar chord right here, bam. So that shape that we learned down here, we're just gonna move it up here, and that's our G chord. Bam, look at how easy that is. Now it's like you're starting to really start to do things. Cool thing about this is too, you can start to improvise lines around these ideas. So let's say you have that C to G still going on. Let's see if we can improvise an idea based out of these chord shapes. So let's think here. That's a cool one. Bam, so that's basically walking right out, that's taking notes right out of that chord progression. So C, bam, I like that. C, taking notes right out of that. And then adding on to the B for that G chord. do that in multiple different positions and try to improvise a melody line around that chord shape. So let's try to come up with something a little bit different maybe. There's a cool one. And that's how you start to develop more melodic phrasing and be more, state and meant with your intentions of your statements on the guitar. Is really coming up with something that's melodic and fresh and beautiful sounding based on taking notes that are derived from those chords. So C, G, C, G, C, G. And also the cool thing is because of the way that the guitar is set up, there's all these unison notes that repeat. So for example, this, that can be repeated in multiple different areas, which is super, super cool. So when you're thinking in this position to this position, and you're thinking down here, that's all applicable to being repeated. So just think about that, okay? I think triads are very, very important, and I did another lesson on the 5/7 triad. So if you haven't seen that, I'll have a card up on the screen here so that you can give that a check out, because I highly recommend that. Because the next step is implementing the 5/7 chords and these regular triadic chords. So like, let's say you have C to G7, dun dun dun. You can implement that. Position. They just repeat all over the neck. Alright guys, that was the video. Thanks for sticking around. Let me know what you want to see next. I have all kinds of different ideas that I'm curious about, but if people aren't interested in learning them, then I don't want to spend the time trying to create it. So let me know down in the comment sections below. Check out the website, justinhatmusic.com, the Facebook page. I have all my links down in the description as always, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care.